I still remember the exact moment my whole world turned upside down. I was sitting in my bedroom, my hands shaking as I pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from the bottom of my purse. The words were written in rushed handwriting, like someone was scared while writing them. Run from your family now. My heart was beating so fast, I thought it might jump out of my chest. I read it again and again, hoping the words would change, but they stayed the same. Who put this in my bag? Why would someone tell me to run from my own family? My daughter Rochelle and her husband Tyrese were the only family I had left in this world. Let me take you back to earlier that day, because that's when everything started to feel strange. It was a Tuesday morning, and I had my regular checkup with Dr. Zainab Okoro at Mercy General Hospital. Tyrese drove me there like he always did. He was so helpful, always making sure I got to my appointments on time. He kissed Rochelle goodbye at the door and helped me into the car, holding my arm like I was made of glass. The drive was quiet. Tyrese asked me how I was feeling, and I told him the truth. Tired, confused most days, and my stomach hurt a lot. He nodded and said, "Don't worry, Mama Delphine. The doctor will check everything." When we got to the hospital, Tyrese said he'd wait in the cafeteria. I walked slowly to Dr. Okoro's office, my legs feeling heavy, like they were filled with sand. Dr. Okoro was a beautiful woman with kind eyes. But that day, something was different about her. She seemed nervous. Her hands shook a little when she checked my blood pressure. She kept looking at me in a strange way, like she wanted to say something but couldn't. "Mrs. Carter," she said softly, "I need to ask you some questions, and I need you to be completely honest with me." I nodded, confused. "Who prepares your meals at home?" "Well, my daughter Rochelle does. She's wonderful. She makes me a special smoothie every night for my heart." Dr. Okoro wrote something down, and I noticed her hand was shaking even more. "And your medications? Who picks them up from the pharmacy?" "My son-in-law Tyrese. He's so good to me. He handles everything since I moved in with them 2 years ago." Dr. Okoro's face changed. She looked worried, maybe even scared. She stood up and walked to the window, then back to her desk. She picked up my medical chart and read through it carefully, her eyebrows pressed together. "Mrs. Carter, have you noticed when your symptoms got worse?" I thought about it. I suppose it was after I moved in with Rochelle and Tyrese, but that makes sense, doesn't it? I'm getting older. My husband died, I had that bad fall, and my body just isn't what it used to be. What kind of symptoms exactly? Tiredness, confusion, forgetting things, stomach pains, dizziness. Some days I can barely remember what year it is. Dr. Okoro bit her lip. She walked around her desk and sat in the chair next to me, taking my hands in hers. "Mrs. Carter, I'm going to run some special blood tests today. Tests I don't normally run. Is that okay?" "Of course, doctor. Whatever you think is best." She drew my blood, and I noticed her hands weren't shaking anymore. She seemed determined now, focused. After she finished, she walked me to the door. That's when it happened. As I bent down to pick up my purse from the chair, Dr. Okoro suddenly dropped her pen on the floor right next to my bag. She quickly bent down to get it, and I heard a soft rustling sound, like paper moving. But I didn't think much of it. Old people drop things all the time. "Take care of yourself, Mrs. Carter," she said, looking straight into my eyes. "Be very careful." I thought that was an odd thing to say, but I just smiled and nodded. Tyrese was waiting for me in the lobby. He asked me how it went, and I told him everything was fine. On the drive home, I felt sleepy and rested my head against the window. Back home, I went straight to my bedroom to lie down. I was reaching into my purse for my reading glasses when my fingers touched something that wasn't supposed to be there. A piece of paper, folded small and tight, stuffed deep in the bottom of my bag. I pulled it out and opened it slowly. "Run from your family now." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. My vision went blurry with tears. This had to be from Dr. Okoro. She was the only person who'd been near my bag. Downstairs, I heard the front door open. Rochelle's voice called out sweetly, "Mama, I'm home. I'll make your smoothie in just a minute." My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I stared at the note. Should I go downstairs and show this to my daughter? Should I ask her what this means? Or should I hide it and pretend I never saw it? I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. Rochelle was coming. I quickly shoved the note under my pillow just as Rochelle opened my bedroom door. My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure she could hear it. "Mama, you okay?" "You look pale," she said, walking over to feel my forehead with her cool hand. I forced a smile. "Just tired from the appointment, baby. You know how those hospital visits wear me out." "Poor Mama, let me get you that smoothie. It'll make you feel better, I promise." She left the room, and I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My mind was racing. Why would Dr. Okoro tell me to run from my family? From Rochelle, my only daughter? From Tyrese, who'd been nothing but helpful since I moved in? I needed to think clearly. I needed to remember. 2 years ago, I was living alone in the house where Rochelle grew up. It was 3 months after my husband Bernard passed away from cancer. I was managing just fine, cooking for myself, going to church, meeting my friends for coffee every Thursday. Sure, I was lonely, but I was independent. Then I had the fall. I was coming down the stairs with a laundry basket when I missed a step. I broke my wrist and bruised my hip badly. Rochelle rushed over that same day, her face full of worry and tears. "Mama, you can't live alone anymore? What if you'd hit your head? What if no one found you for days?" "Tyrese and I have been talking, and we want you to move in with us. We have that big house with the extra bedroom downstairs. You'll be safe there. We'll take care of you." I didn't want to be a burden, but Rochelle insisted. She said it would break her heart if something happened to me while I was all alone. So I agreed. Tyrese was so helpful with everything. He said, "Mama Delphine, that big old house is too much for Rochelle to worry about. Why don't you sell it? We can put the money in a safe account, and you won't have to stress about maintenance and bills anymore." It made sense at the time. They sold my house for $300,000. Tyrese said he'd invest it wisely for me, along with managing my pension payments. He worked in finance, after all. He knew about these things. I heard Rochelle coming back up the stairs. She carried a tall glass filled with thick purple smoothie. She made one for me every single night. "Here you go, Mama. Blueberries, spinach, and those special supplements for your heart. Dr. Okoro said you need to keep your strength up." She handed me the glass and sat on the edge of my bed, watching me with a smile. Usually I just drank it down without thinking. But tonight, with that note burning under my pillow, everything felt different. I took a small sip. It tasted the same as always. Slightly sweet, with a bitter aftertaste that Rochelle said came from the vitamins. "Drink it all, Mama. You barely ate dinner." I took another sip, watching her face. She looked like my little girl, the daughter I'd raised and loved. How could she be someone I needed to run from? "Actually, baby, my stomach is feeling upset. Can I finish it later?" Her smile faded just a bit. "Mama, you know the nutrients work best when you drink it fresh. Come on, just finish it. For me? There was something in her voice, something I'd never noticed before. It wasn't quite pushy, but it wasn't a suggestion either. I drank half of it slowly, then set it on my nightstand. I really can't, Rochelle. I feel sick. She sighed, picking up the glass. All right, Mama. Let me get your evening medications then. She left and came back with Tyrese, who was holding my pill organizer. He smiled his charming smile. How's my favorite mother-in-law doing? Tired, I said softly. He handed me 3 pills and a glass of water. I'd been taking these same pills every night for almost 2 years now. Tyrese picked them up from the pharmacy every month. I didn't even know what they all were anymore. I put the pills in my mouth and took a drink of water. But I didn't swallow them. I held them under my tongue, something I'd never done before. Good night, Mama Delphine. Sleep well, Tyrese said, turning off my lamp. They both left, closing the door behind them. I quickly spit the pills into my hand and looked at them in the dim light coming from the hallway. 3 different pills. I'd never questioned them before. Why would I? They were from my doctor, weren't they? I wrapped them in a tissue and hid them in my nightstand drawer. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. But something strange happened. Usually by this time of night I'd feel foggy and confused, barely able to keep my eyes open. Tonight, my mind felt clearer than it had in months. Around 2 in the morning, I heard voices downstairs. Angry whispers floating up through the floorboards. I got out of bed slowly, my hip aching, and crept to my bedroom door. I opened it just a crack and tiptoed to the top of the stairs. Rochelle's voice came from the kitchen, sharp and frustrated. The old woman is taking too long. That doctor looked at me strange today when I picked up the report. Tyrese responded, his voice cold in a way I'd never heard before. 2 years, Rochelle. We've been waiting 2 years. How much longer until the heart gives out naturally? My legs almost gave out beneath me. I grabbed the stair railing to keep from falling. The old woman. They were talking about me. My own daughter was talking about me like I was a problem that needed to be solved. Rochelle's voice got quieter, and I had to lean forward to hear. Maybe we need to increase the dosage. The smoothies aren't working fast enough. What about the pills? Tyrese asked. Those too. But we have to be careful. That Dr. Okoro has been asking too many questions. I knew I shouldn't have let Mama switch to her. Her old doctor never paid attention to anything. Wait. I tried to remember. Had I chosen Dr. Okoro, or had Rochelle suggested her? My memories felt like puzzle pieces scattered on the floor, and I was just now trying to put them back together. I heard footsteps moving in the kitchen, and I quickly crept back to my room. I climbed into bed, pulling the covers up to my chin. My whole body was shaking, but not from cold, from fear, from heartbreak. The words kept repeating in my head. Increase the dosage. The heart gives out naturally. They were poisoning me. My own daughter and her husband were slowly killing me. But why? The next morning, I pretended to be my normal, confused self. Rochelle came into my room with her bright smile, carrying my breakfast tray. Good morning, Mama. How'd you sleep? Not well, I said, making my voice sound weak and tired. I kept forgetting where I was. She nodded, looking almost pleased. Oh, Mama, your memory is getting worse. Maybe we should talk to the doctor about it. She set the tray on my lap. Oatmeal, orange juice, and a small cup with my morning pills. Take your medicine first, then eat while it's hot. I picked up the pills and put them in my mouth, taking a big sip of orange juice. But just like last night, I didn't swallow them. I tucked them under my tongue. "Good girl," Rochelle said, patting my hand. "I have to show a house this morning, but Tyrese will be home. Call if you need anything." As soon as she left, I spit the pills into a napkin and hid them in my robe pocket. I ate the oatmeal slowly. It tasted normal, but now I questioned everything. I heard the front door close and Rochelle's car drive away. Downstairs, I could hear Tyrese talking on the phone in his office. This was my chance. I got dressed as quietly as I could. My hands were shaking as I buttoned my sweater. I waited until I heard Tyrese go into the bathroom. Then I slowly made my way downstairs. His office door was slightly open. I'd never gone in there before. Tyrese always said it was his private workspace, and I respected that. But nothing was normal anymore. I slipped inside and closed the door behind me. My heart was beating so loud I was sure the neighbors could hear it. His desk was neat and organized. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly, but I started opening drawers carefully. The first two had normal office supplies. The third one was locked. A locked drawer. Why would he need to lock a drawer unless he was hiding something? I looked around the room frantically. Where would he keep a key? I checked under the desk, behind picture frames, inside the pencil holder. Nothing. Then I remembered something my husband Bernard used to do. He'd hide important keys in books on the shelf, hollowed out books that looked real but opened up inside. I ran my fingers along the bookshelf, pulling out books and checking them. The fourth one I grabbed felt different, lighter. I opened it, and inside was a small silver key. My hands shook as I unlocked the drawer. Inside were folders, lots of folders. I pulled out the first one and opened it. Bank statements, my bank statements. But the numbers didn't make sense. According to these papers, my account that should have had over $300,000 from the house sale only had $15,000 left. I grabbed another folder. Investment documents with my signature on them, but I'd never seen these papers before. I'd never signed them. Another folder. Life insurance policy. $500,000. With Rochelle listed as the sole beneficiary. I did remember signing that years ago, right after Bernard died. That part was real. But there was a paper clipped to it. A note in Tyrese's handwriting. Death certificate required for payout. Natural causes preferable. My vision blurred with tears. They were stealing my money while slowly killing me so they could collect the insurance. I kept digging through the drawer. At the very bottom, I found something that made my blood run cold. A copy of my will. But it wasn't the will I'd made with my lawyer 10 years ago. This one was dated 6 months ago. It left everything to Rochelle and specifically stated that my sister Odessa should receive nothing. The signature at the bottom looked like mine, but I'd never signed this document. I hadn't even spoken to my sister Odessa in 3 years. I suddenly remembered why Rochelle had driven a wedge between us. It happened slowly, so slowly I didn't notice it at first. Odessa and I used to talk every Sunday after church. We'd been close our whole lives, even though she lived 2 hours away in Richmond. But after I moved in with Rochelle, those calls became less frequent. Rochelle would say things like, "Mama," Aunt Odessa called again. "She was asking about your money. I think she's trying to take advantage of you in your old age." Or, "Aunt Odessa said something really hurtful about Tyrese. I don't want to repeat it and upset you, but maybe you should keep your distance for a while." None of it felt right at the time, but I was confused so often back then. The pills and the smoothies were doing their job, making me foggy and forgetful. I started believing that maybe Odessa was being greedy, that maybe she didn't really care about me. Now I understood. Rochelle was isolating me, cutting me off from anyone who might notice something was wrong. I heard the toilet flush upstairs. Tyrese was coming back. I quickly took pictures of the documents with my shaking hands, but then I realized I didn't have a phone. Rochelle said I didn't need one. "You're home all day, Mama. You can use the house phone if you need anything." I shoved the folders back into the drawer, locked it, and put the key back in the hollow book. I slipped out of the office just as I heard Tyrese's footsteps on the stairs. I rushed to the living room and sat down on the couch, grabbing a magazine and pretending to read. "Mama Delphine, you okay down here?" Tyrese walked into the room, looking at me with those eyes that I used to think were kind. "Just wanted a change of scenery," I said, keeping my voice weak. He nodded and went back to his office. I heard the door close. I had to get help. I had to contact someone. But who? And how? I went to the kitchen and picked up the house phone. Dead. Completely dead. I checked the cord, and it was plugged in properly, but there was no dial tone. When had that stopped working? Had it ever worked since I moved in? I couldn't remember making a single phone call from this house. I was trapped. That afternoon, Rochelle came home early. She seemed different, suspicious. Her eyes followed me everywhere. "Mama, you seem more alert today. Did you take your morning pills?" "Yes, baby. You watched me take them." "And you've been drinking your smoothies?" "Every night, just like you tell me." She studied my face like she was looking for a lie. "Tyrese said you were downstairs this morning. You never come downstairs on your own anymore." My stomach twisted. "I just wanted to sit in the living room. Is that not allowed?" "Of course it's allowed, Mama. I just worry about you on those stairs. You could fall again." That evening, she made my smoothie right in front of me. I watched her every move. She pulled out the blender, added frozen blueberries, spinach, yogurt, and banana. Normal ingredients. Then she walked to the spice cabinet. She thought I wasn't paying attention, but I was watching her reflection in the microwave door. She reached behind the paprika and pulled out a small brown bottle. She unscrewed the cap and added exactly 4 drops to the blender. My heart stopped. There it was. The poison, hidden right in the kitchen where I ate every day. She blended everything together and poured it into a tall glass. She walked over to where I sat at the kitchen table and placed it in front of me. "Drink up, Mama." She didn't leave. She pulled out a chair and sat across from me, watching. I had no choice. If I refused, she'd know something was wrong. I picked up the glass with shaking hands and took a small sip. "All of it, Mama. You need your strength." I drank it slowly, trying not to think about what was in it. Each swallow felt like swallowing broken glass. She watched me finish every last drop, then took the empty glass to the sink. "Good. Now let's get you upstairs for your evening pills." Within 30 minutes, I started feeling sick. Really sick. My stomach cramped, and the room started spinning. I lay in my bed, sweating and shaking. Tyrese came to check on me. "Should we call an ambulance?" Rochelle's voice was calm. "Let's wait and see if it passes. You know how she gets. She's just old and tired. These episodes happen." Through my blurred vision, I looked at my daughter. She was sitting in the chair by my bed, scrolling through her phone, completely unbothered while I suffered. They were waiting for my heart to stop, waiting for this to finally be over. I turned my head toward the window. Outside, I could see my neighbor, Mr. Washington, walking his dog under the streetlight. I tried to sit up, tried to call out, but my voice wouldn't work. I reached for the window lock, but my hands wouldn't cooperate. Everything was getting darker. Then I heard something. Footsteps. Not 2 sets. 3. Someone else was in the house. The bedroom door burst open, and I saw Dr. Okoro rushing in, followed by 2 police officers. "Step away from her right now," Dr. Okoro shouted at Rochelle. Rochelle jumped up from her chair, her face going white. "What are you doing in my house? You can't just break in here." "We didn't break in. Your neighbor, Mr. Washington, let us in through the back door," one of the officers said. He was a tall man with a name tag that read, Officer Banks. "He's been worried about Mrs. Carter for months." Dr. Okoro rushed to my bedside, checking my pulse and looking into my eyes. "Delphine, can you hear me? Stay with me." I tried to nod, but everything was spinning. Tyrese appeared in the doorway. When he saw the police, he turned to run, but the second officer caught him. "Nobody's leaving this house." "This is insane," Rochelle screamed. "My mother is sick. She has a bad heart. Whatever that doctor told you is a lie." Dr. Okoro turned to face my daughter with fire in her eyes. "The blood tests don't lie, Rochelle. Your mother has been poisoned with arsenic. Small doses over a long period of time. It's a miracle she's still alive." The room went silent, except for my labored breathing. Officer Banks pulled out handcuffs. "Rochelle Mitchell and Tyrese Mitchell, you're both under arrest for attempted murder and elder abuse." "No!" Rochelle lunged toward me, but the officer held her back. "Mama, tell them. Tell them I've been taking care of you. Tell them I love you." I found my voice, weak but clear. "You've been killing me." Rochelle's face crumbled. For a moment, she almost looked like my daughter again. But then her expression turned hard and cold. "You were supposed to die peacefully in your sleep. You were supposed to just slip away. But you're too stubborn, just like always." "Why?" I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "I'm your mother." Tyrese laughed bitterly from where the officer held him. "Because you have money we need. Because Rochelle's business is failing and we're drowning in debt. Because that life insurance policy is worth more than keeping you around." "We gave you 2 years," Rochelle spat. 2 years of free housing, of taking care of you, and you couldn't even do this one thing for us. You couldn't just die." Dr. Okoro stepped between us. "Get them out of here." As the officers led Rochelle and Tyrese away in handcuffs, Rochelle turned back one last time. "You ruined my life, Mama. Always so perfect, always so kind. Everyone loved Delphine. Well, where's all that love now?" The paramedics arrived and started treating me immediately. Dr. Okoro held my hand as they worked. "How did you know?" I asked weakly. She squeezed my hand gently. "Your symptoms didn't match your heart condition. When you told me about the smoothies and the pills your family controlled, I got suspicious. I ran a toxicology screen on your blood. When it came back positive for arsenic, I knew I had to warn you fast, but I couldn't do it openly. If your daughter suspected I knew, she might have killed you immediately." "The note," I whispered. "I'm sorry I scared you, but I had to make you aware without them knowing. I contacted Mr. Washington, your neighbor. He told me he'd noticed you seemed drugged and confused whenever he saw you. He said your daughter never let anyone visit you alone. We worked together, watching the house. When he saw you looking sick in the window tonight, he called me and the police immediately." Tears poured down my face. My own daughter wanted me dead. Dr. Okoro's eyes were sad. "I'm so sorry, Delphine, but you're safe now. You're going to recover." 3 days later, I was in the hospital, getting stronger every day. The arsenic was leaving my system, and my mind was clearer than it had been in 2 years. My sister Odessa rushed into my room, her face wet with tears. "Delphine! Oh my God! Delphine!" We held each other and cried. She told me she'd been trying to visit for years, but Rochelle always made excuses. She'd been told I didn't want to see her, that I was angry with her. "I never stopped loving you," she sobbed. "I called and called, but Rochelle said you didn't want to talk to me." "She lied about everything," I said quietly. "Mr. Washington visited too, bringing flowers." "I'm sorry I didn't act sooner, Mrs. Carter. I should have trusted my instincts." "You saved my life," I told him. "You and Dr. Okoro both did." The police found the brown bottle in Rochelle's kitchen. It was liquid arsenic, disguised as a vitamin supplement. They also found records showing Tyrese had stolen almost all my money, leaving only enough to avoid suspicion. Rochelle and Tyrese were charged with attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, and forgery. The prosecutor said they could face 30 years in prison. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. The baby I'd raised, the daughter I'd loved more than my own life, had tried to kill me for money. But as I lay in that hospital bed, surrounded by people who truly cared about me, I realized something important. Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about the people who show up when you need them most. Dr. Okoro came by on her rounds. "How are you feeling today, Delphine?" I smiled at her, truly smiled. "I'm alive. Thanks to you, I'm alive." She sat down beside my bed. "You know what saved you. You listened to your instincts. When something felt wrong, you paid attention. A lot of people ignore those feelings. I almost didn't. I almost convinced myself I was being paranoid. But you didn't. You fought back in the only way you could. You stopped taking the pills. You pretended to be confused while staying alert. You're stronger than you know. Looking back now, I understand that the worst betrayal can come from the people we trust most. But I also learned that there are still good people in this world. People like Dr. Okoro, who risk everything to do what's right. People like Mr. Washington, who pay attention when something seems wrong. People like my sister Odessa, who never stopped loving me, even when she was pushed away. I moved in with Odessa after I was released from the hospital. The police helped me recover what was left of my money. It wasn't much, but it was enough. 6 months later, I sat in the courtroom as Rochelle and Tyrese were sentenced. Rochelle cried and begged for forgiveness, but I couldn't give it to her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. As they led her away, she looked at me one last time. I saw no remorse in her eyes, only anger that her plan had failed. I walked out of that courtroom holding Odessa's hand, with Dr. Okoro and Mr. Washington beside me. I was 65 years old, and I'd just learned the hardest lesson of my life. But I was alive to learn it, and that made all the difference.